It is live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 30 of Exploring Genuine Transformation. This is a show that is about exploring what is truly transformational. And I am really excited today to be interviewing Valerie Chafograck. And thank you for being with us, Valerie.
Thank you for having me, Laurie.
Yeah. And this is a really important topic. We are going to be talking about what movement liberation is, which is a movement that Valerie has been leading to provide spaces for Black, Indigenous people of color to explore movement and basically to have their own spaces and have that be scholarship based, so that Black, Indigenous people of color have a space and access to these really important movement tools and movement. I don't know what we wouldn't exactly call it tools, but we're going to get into this more as we go along. We will talk about, the importance of this and the importance of movement in particular. I have had the privilege of dancing on Valerie's floor for many, many years. So that it's very exciting to me to be interviewing you. And I also, as we move forward, just want to acknowledge Valerie's courage for coming on this show and talking about such a delicate subject. Thank you, Valerie, truly. Yeah.
Talking about race.
Yes, talking about race, talking about privilege, talking about how that occurs. So that the other thing that I'm really aware of is that this is, to me, like, I'm so touched by Valerie's and inspired by Valerie and this movement. And to me, this is actually, like, we will get into it more, but when I think about genuine transformation, I think about, what we are going to be talking about, because it's on every level. It's transformation through movement, transformation through, looking at our privilege as white people, transforming on a societal level and a global level, and also kind of how we can, even as white people, support through our financial means. So we'll get into this even more as we go along. So thank you so much for being here. I did this a little, I want to introduce Valerie a little bit more. So I'm actually going to read off of her bio because it's so beautiful and it just speaks to the heart of everything. So
okay. Go ahead.
So Valerie Chafograck is a Black, mixed-race, California-based embodiment and conscious dance facilitator. She has been teaching since 1992 and is the founder of Dance Sanctuary, a highly attended weekly community dance and healing event in the Bay Area, blending soul motion practice, somatic and social justice perspectives. She offers classes and workshops in the US and abroad to advance personal and collective transformation, healing, and liberation. Most recently, and this is what we're going to be talking about today, she has created Movement Liberation, a project for Black, Indigenous people of color, creating embodied and somatic healing workshops and retreats for people of color. Movement Liberation has the power to bring about radical healing and guide the way into a new global and racial paradigm. So beautiful and true. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, based on everything I said, is there, anything that came up for you, anything that you want to begin with in particular?
Well, first I want to begin by gratitude because talking about movement liberation and talking about work for Black, Indigenous, and people of color needs exposure. So I'm grateful to have an opportunity to bring exposure to this work, to this movement. And to say as well that it is always a bit delicate to talk about those subjects. So I'm here showing up fully with my strengths and my vulnerability and everything in between. So yeah, this is what I want to
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
And really a lot of gratitude for you to provide this interview where we can have a conversation from a white woman to a woman of color to a friend to another friend and to two professionals as well who
Yeah.
value and care for transformation. So there is so many layers in the conversation and in our connection. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that really lands. So you're so generous as you come on here in such a vulnerable, courageous way. So thank you. So yeah, I would love for you to start by talking about what this movement is in a little bit more depth.
Okay. So I think I'm going to start by introducing why movement liberation came to be birthed and created, and it is in the process of creation. So there would be many reiteration of movement liberation, but it is really the beginning of the movement. I have been myself a practitioner, a dancer, a conscious dancer for over 30 years now, and in predominantly white dance floors. And as a practitioner, I couldn't help than notice that most of the time I was, one or two or 3% of color on the dance floor. And I've been a facilitator of conscious dance now for many years, and noticing that even though I am a woman of color and a teacher of color, my dance floor remain predominantly white, and it's an integrated dance floor. So with some people of color, and always wondering as a leader and as a teacher, how can I shift? How can I really have a dance floor which is a representation of the world at large? Because when you look at our world right now, the world has actually more people of color in it than it has white people. And some racial education will call people of color actually people of the global majority. So I've always been passionate and devoted and dedicated to bring diversity on the dance floor. And I tried many things, from a silent prayer that I carry every day, literally every day of my life, to see diversity unfold, to take actions, and to now for 3 to 4 years giving scholarships to invite Black, Indigenous, and people of color on my floor, and having great response, people saying yes to scholarship, coming and dance, and then leaving after a few weeks and not coming back. So there is a curiosity. I was wondering, I was like, how come people do not come back? How come they do not stay on the floor? I mean, some do, but most of them did not, especially women and especially queer dancers. So I investigated and asked, what would be needed for you to stay on a dance floor and have this practice in your life. So I discovered that there was a factor of finances, which was, of course, the reason why I was giving scholarship. But there was as well an element of safety and an element of feeling at home on a dance floor that was not happening in a dance floor that was predominantly white. And I felt sad about it. And discover that after many, many instances that it was really something true and that I had to take that at heart, and decided to create Movement Liberation just for that, for Black, Indigenous, and people of color to have a space where they can just simply be themselves, be with their cultures, with their lineages, where they can reclaim part of themselves that have been repressed. And it is really a place where we redefine ourselves and we support one another. Another aspect is that I kept hearing is very often as people of color, we carry a sense of hypervigilance when we are in integrated space where we are scanning, and it's unconscious. It is in our body, it's in our psyche, in our soma, where we are scanning for microaggression or for insensitivities or potential harm. So when we are in a space specific and only for people of color, a relaxation happens automatically because this is not here anymore. So this actually what creates safety. It is removing this hypervigilance where, you know, the nervous system works and overworks, I would say.
It's so, I just want to say how important it is for you to speak that. Like, I just, you know, how important it is also for, I think white people often don't, like, they have the privilege, right, to not even like have to think about that. So there's something when you say it, it feels so important for everyone to hear. So thank you for, speaking that, you know, what it actually is like for you and for other people, for, you know, other people of color in these integrated spaces, and the importance of having, you know, your own space to feel completely free, and the impact of being in an integrated space.
Yes. And I really believe that actually both are valuable because we gain strength and resilience in being in space with each other as people of color that actually help us then weave a resilience to be in integrated space. So it's not either or, it is one informs the other, and one is definitely building strength for us. And there is another point which I've heard again and again through participant and through dancer is when we are in a space which is specifically for BIPOC, we can take up space. And this is something, and when I say we can take up space, is that we can define how to take up space in our own terms. Because life, I mean, 100 years of oppression has taught us not to occupy space together in the way we want. And now it's a reclaiming of, yes, we can actually have space for ourselves with our own music, our own rhythm, our own tradition, celebrating, you know, our exuberance, our joy, and as well paying attention to showing our feeling authentically. There is something very beautiful about having a safe space where we can come together and support one another in the sadness as well as the joy. I mean, when there is, the news right now is fully, you know, full of, you know, when you hear about a Black person being killed, for instance, there is a value of being in a space where we can actually express our sadness together. And there is as well value of being in a space where we can celebrate, because we are often, we have received feedback verbally or not verbally that we don't really fit in. We are too loud, or we are too big, or we are too direct, or we are too passionate, or woman, we are too sexy, or our way of dancing is this or that. So it's actually complete freedom to just be ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So important. Thank you for, speaking to that and like the depth of it and all the different sides of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there is as well the celebration part, which is really important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and celebrating and then being able to be fully free, because what you were saying, right, what we're talking about before is that sure, it can be supportive to then come back into an integrated space, but it sounds like there will always be that kind of on edgeness. There's a feeling in integrated spaces because of white privilege and unconsciousness, really. That
I don't think there will always be. And my wish is actually it will not always be like this.
Yeah.
There are ways for integrated space to really embody consciousness and awareness of privilege and power. And I truly believe that ultimately we need to find harmony with each other and be multiracial on dance floor. I believe that cultivating space for BIPOC is one of the steps that builds resilience towards that.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying that is because it's really new. It's as of yesterday, there is a group of white dancers in my Monday class who have taken on to work with the book of Layla Saad, Me and White Supremacy, and they are creating a book club because it's a practice. It's a 28-day challenge where they're actually wanting to become more conscious of the impact that they can have on the dance floor, to welcome, to be better allies to people of color. So there are so many different ways we can all evolve together.
Well, I'm glad you spoke to that, because that's what I was going to say as well, is that you're talking about on the side of, Black, Indigenous people of color, but the responsibility of white people, right, to have that education and to create that, to make integrated spaces, to contribute to integrated spaces being more, there being more of an acknowledgement of power and privilege, and how that impacts an integrated space. So I'm really glad to hear that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's super new. It's as of yesterday.
Beautiful. Yeah. So thank you for speaking to that. I think that the question that's coming up for me, and it seems like it's sort of the next what's the word that I'm looking for? We've been talking about the importance of these separate spaces. And I think another piece of that is like, why movement? What's the importance of movement in particular, and the movement that you teach?
This is actually, the core of the practice. This is where my passion lies. Why movement? Because in a world where white supremacy keeps us in our head, in our mind, and patriarchy and so many systemic oppression keeps up here, it is so crucial for us to have a relationship to our body, to the wisdom of our body. And this goes beyond, it's for every race. I wish that for everybody. And because Black, brown, and people of color have accumulated ancestral trauma, it is even more important for us to move and to have a place to release and to free those places that can create frozen spaces in the body or fearful spaces in the body. And when I say move, part of slow motion, because I want to talk about slow motion, this is really what I teach. There is a movement practice, but there is as well a cultivating stillness. So the combination of both is what really creates the healing. And why movement as well? Because with the self-expression comes the connection to self, the connection to one another, which is so healing, and the connection to community. And community is really where the support lies. So it's a win-win situation. And of course, when you put the body in motion, you put the psyche in motion. So there is a connection to spirit and to divinity, which is so conducive to healing as well. So this is why an emphasis on movement for me is crucial. Because yes, we can go through therapy and I see the validity in that. But there is the soma, the body has a wisdom that is invaluable, and it is important to explore and take the time to give it attention. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love what you said also at the beginning about kind of like getting out of the mind, and that the mind, you know, how everybody's trained is really that there's a, you know, it's like that white supremacy, like patriarchal, like sort of, you know, top-down approach versus kind of like allowing the body to express itself and being more, expressing in that way. And I also, oh, go ahead.
I said in slow motion, we have this saying that it's descending from the tower of thought.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Well, and what you were speaking to before, you know, earlier, I think is just that in this space for people of color to be able to fully express themselves. So having that separate space of then like movement being this avenue to explore what are the kinds of expressions that are truly me and that I really want to get out. And also where is the healing, like the healing that's possible from that space of being able to completely explore in a safe space.
Yeah. It is, it is really, it's so beautiful. I wish everyone could be a little mouse and see what's taking place in those workshops that I've been leading and collaborating with other leaders of color. It's actually amazing. Would you be open to hear just a little testimonial?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about that. So because it would be wonderful for everyone to hear the spaces that you have curated, how that's been for people of color and the impact of that. Yeah, please.
Thank you. And I have quite a bit, but I will just read you what seems to me. And I will refrain from speaking the name of the people because I haven't checked with them whether or not they would like to be known. So I will just read. I smile as I remember how I was given space at the workshop to just be. There is so much freedom in being able to drop the mask, drop the persona, drop the role we play, and to just be. I felt what it was like to expand my body and to take up space as opposed to my norm as a Black woman of contracting and shrinking. Something that I've been conditioning to do in a world that does not value me, in a world that does not see me. Being prompted to stand tall shook away the insecurities that I walked in with, and for the first time I don't know how long, I felt proud to be me in this skin, in this body. I moved in this space where I saw my own beauty reflected back at me in the eyes of other beautifully brilliant brown souls.
Mm. Mm.
I walked away feeling alive and free.
Oh. Mm.
And the other one is as well. Oh, let me take a breath.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful and touching.
I live for that. It's like when I read that, I was like, yes, I'm doing the right thing at the right time. And this is really, I'm answering the call.
Yeah.
Ah. As a Black woman, I have long wondered what it would be like to be in a conscious dance space where I didn't feel the need to craft a safety bubble around myself to shield myself from the exotification, hypersexualizing, projection, and microaggression that occur so frequently in Eurocentric dance space. This workshop has been the answer to that longing, and it is so much more than what I had imagined. It turns out it's not just the absence of oppressive dynamics that is magical. In fact, it is the presence of so much POC alchemical genius medicine that makes the space so rich and nurturing.
Mm.
And I could go on and on. So it is, I think this is really an important part because it is not the absence,
Yeah.
it's not only the absence of whiteness and white people, it is actually the beauty of being together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you read those. Yeah. And just for everyone to hear the impact of the spaces that you are creating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When I hear those, it's like I get it on like a visceral body level. I'm like, oh, like we can talk about it, but then hearing, and I get it also from you, but then hearing that, I'm like, oh my God, it's such a profound impact. And it's also such a profound, thing that you're doing. Yeah. That's part of the transformation, that we are like, that's huge transformation.
It is, it
Yeah.
is somatic level, witnessing this transformation happening before my eyes on the dance floor and witnessing each other on the dance floor is is, a, is priceless, precious and priceless.
Yeah, I was just getting when you said that, like the somatic level, that it's like on a cellular level. Like it's like so deep. So it's I mean, it's even there's just the transformation in this movement is just every level I can think of. It's like on the cellular level, the ancestral level, the
permission level, like
yeah,
giving yourself permission to gather.
yeah. And the impact of, also the global level and, really, really shifting, like really transforming and shifting, sort of racial dynamic, like racism, I would say,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I would love for you, and we're kind of getting towards the end. And I mean, I think we've talked about many different things. If there's anything that you want to add, but what I was thinking was that it would be great for you to talk a little more specifically about this movement and about the fundraiser that you're doing. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start by naming a core principle of the soul motion practice, which is including the excluded. And this is the base of movement liberation, is to create access to those healing space, those conscious dance floor, to give access to people who have never had this practice in their life. And most of the time, the one who never had access are the one who need it the most, and who have a financial obstacles, because it's part of being privileged. And I have had this privilege for many years to have the $20 to go to dance for a couple of hours, to have the 80 or the $100 for a day long, and etc., and to pay for a retreat. And I think now it is time for another paradigm where everybody needs access to this practice. So it is decolonizing privilege and go, wow, what would it be like when the fundraiser has reached his goal to go to East Oakland and offer a workshop in the heart of where people really need it and don't even know that I exist, don't even know that this practice exists, maybe, you know, or going to New York in communities of color and to offer that to Latinx and to Asian, I mean, and indigenous people who are here. We are dancing on their land. I mean, Berkeley is Ohlone land. I would love to have the privilege to see some indigenous stepping on my dance floor and to tell them, please come and come for free, because actually we are a guest on your land. So the least I can do is to have this reciprocity and to have you benefit of that. So that's the principle of movement liberation, is to ask people who are in place of privilege, and you know, everybody is in a different situation, obviously, to contribute, to support this movement in a big way. And it is part as well, if we want to go a little bit further, but that would be another conversation, to be aware of what we call reparation.
Yeah, I would love to speak to this, and also then want to get more specific about how we'll talk about, you know, sort of the actual fundraiser and how people can contribute. But yeah, I want to say that this is another level of what Valerie is speaking to, of the transformation, is I think asking white people to, you know, fund these spaces and to support this work financially. And I think that there's many levels, like you said.
I mean, even, you know, even if people of color who have privilege financial as well.
Yeah, but I wanted to speak more to the sort of, you know, as a white person, that I think we're really, this is directly showing our compassion and our reparation, and it's redirecting the funding, you know, because whiteness historically has had the financial power. So to be able to then use that, you know, use our financial power to support and be an ally to people of color in this way is so important. And I know one of the conversations that we had, right, is like, it's almost like we could think about it as like, you know, it's like, okay, maybe I'm gonna get this many massages in the next 6 months, and instead of doing that, I'm gonna contribute to this cause. And I think that we don't often think in those ways, but it's actually really important, right, to say, I'm actually going to, you know, forego, like, maybe this is what I have put aside for that. But I think we all have, you know, those of us with privilege, we all do so many things, right? And so that we use our privilege in so many ways to meet our needs. And so what about, I mean, the power of being able to, the power of doing that, it feels like it's really sending a strong message, especially sort of almost not giving up something, but saying, hey, this is so important that I am, you know, I'm going to put this funding here. So
sometimes it is giving up.
Yeah. You know,
once I give up my money petty for a couple of months,
Yeah.
and I give this 60, $80 to the campaign.
Yeah.
Why if I give up my favorite restaurant once a month and I give those $100 on my bottle of wine, or I don't know, I mean, everybody has their,
Yeah.
privilege. We have so much that we indulge in.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. It feels really good to think about, like, to do that. I mean, that's the, so I'm curious if you want to speak a little bit about kind of where the fundraiser's at, and kind of, we'll obviously put the, I'll speak more to it after you say that, and we'll put the link in the comments.
Okay.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the fundraiser is at 30% now. The goal of the GoFundMe campaign, which is strictly for scholarship, is $55,000, and we are now at almost, I mean, I didn't check today, but it is 30% because we have had a private donation coming on the side of the GoFundMe, so we are at 30%. And this has been mostly, extending the campaign through my network. So now it is time for people to actually make an effort to extend this to their network, because I have tapped my network. And there is as well a call that has been extended to all dance facilitators and dance producers and teachers in California and beyond California, with the possibility for them to host event or to host a class and give the proceeds of the class to movement liberation.
Mm-hmm. And so this is going, the funding is going to be going to classes that you, and retreats that you are teaching.
Yes, in 2020.
But that also that you can be teaching, and you bring in other collaborators at times too, I know.
Actually,
yeah.
I will be teaching the retreat this summer with my dear friend and collaborator, Sarah Crowell.
Yeah.
We will be teaching a retreat this summer, right on summer solstice. Mm-hmm. This spring, in March 21st, there is a day long that I will be collaborating with Dominique Cowling, a Black embodiment facilitator and mindfulness facilitator, a young woman, super powerful, incredible. And then there would be 2 other day long, one in the fall and one in the winter.
Oh my God, it's so inspiring. And I want everybody to hear that, like, Valerie has, like, what she's raising money for. It's like she already has all of these, she's put in so much work to have all of these classes and retreats available for Black, Indigenous people of color. And so really it's just like, they're already there, the structure's there. And now it's like, we can support this by supporting the campaign and financially donating to it, so that all of these classes can be filled with BIPOC from all over the country. It doesn't only have to be California. So yeah. So I just want to stress that like, this is, I mean, it's beautiful to hear, like, all the classes that you, like, everything that you've already, it's already created. And obviously you've put in, I mean, so grateful for you for all the work that you've done. I know how much it's been and how vulnerable it is to, on so many levels. So thank you. I want to say also that, well, first of all, I want to say that we've been talking about this, now, and I really just want to say indirectly, I want to invite everybody watching to directly take action and contribute. And we will post the GoFundMe campaign in the comments. And also I would invite you to post this to your networks, because I know that there's a lot of people who watch this show, who are online, who have huge networks. So this is an opportunity to contribute. And I've contributed once, but I'm actually going to contribute again as we get off of this call, because it's so important. And so, yeah, I would love for you to contribute with me and, really really contribute to this cause. It's very important.
Thank you so much, Laurie, for phrasing it like this and to have like a call to action, because we can spend a lot of time talking about it, and at the end of the day what matters is, you know, put our heart, what I call love in action, and be donating financially is a way. And what I want to add before we wrap as well is there is another way to contribute, is to gift time and skills. Right now, Movement Liberation needs a website, needs documentation. So if someone out there wants to create a website pro bono, show yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you for adding that. And I was also going to add that I, you know, to follow Valerie on both Facebook and Instagram, because, you know, this is how she's also getting the word out, so that actually, so like people of color can actually, I mean, see, I mean, everybody can support, but then people of color actually know what you're doing and can make use of, you know, being at these retreats and these spaces. So what is your Instagram handle, just for people?
It is my name, Valerie Chafograck.
Okay, great.
Simply, my name is not that simple, but
well, so it feels like this is a good place to end. I mean, I do just want to add that I think I really want to urge, I'm guessing if you've gotten to the end or if you're watching now, I want to urge you to watch this whole thing, because there were so many important things addressed. And I think what you said at the end is so important, that we walk our talk. The action is so important to contribute to this cause. And I think it's also really helpful to hear why it's so important. So I just want to stress that. I think that we've talked about both in this interview.
I want to thank you, Laurie. I was a bit nervous to get on that call and that interview due to the nature of the subject and how, you know, how important it is to me and to so many people that are presenting this work. And it has been a real pleasure. So thank you so much, and thank you to all the people who took the time to listen. And to perhaps have, I don't know, hopefully something open in them. It is be transformational for all of us, because we are in this together. It's really something to remember. We need each other beyond, you know, we need each other, all races, all ages, all genders. We are in this together. Yes.
That seems like a beautiful place to end. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you, Laurie.